Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chad Hannon. I am the supply chain manager at Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Hopefully, you're having a great day, a good week, or nearing the end of your week, hopefully, and you've got big plans for the weekend. Thank you, first of all, for taking the time to attend this training. I'm very excited to help you guys get introduced to Coupa and highlight the benefits of it and make sure that you are fully aware of the way that you'll be using it as we move forward. Depending on where you're at, you may be rolling forward with Coupa beginning on Monday. So very excited for that. I am recording this just so that you're aware. We will be using this for anybody that doesn't have the chance to attend a training session. And as a reminder, this is for food and beverage. If you are not a member of food and beverage or don't use currently Stratton Warren in the food and beverage environment, this may not be the best training for you, but if you're here and it's the best time for you, go ahead and sit in. But we are talking about food and beverage today. We're scheduled for 90 minutes. My last training took about 80-ish, so hopefully I can get you some time back in your day. And lastly, if you have any questions, feel free to either unmute your microphone or you can write it in the chat, which is at the top of your screen. And I'll just say hi to everybody, just like that. I'll check the chat a few times through. If I get rolling and I forget to read it, don't hesitate to unmute and ask me to stop. So like I said, my name is Chad Hannon. I've been using Coupa for almost 4 years now. I've been with the company just past 4 years as well. We rolled Coupa for the non-food and beverage purchases out in Council Bluffs in February of 2017, and then switched the food and beverage and inventory side over in February of 2019. I've had the privilege, I see some of my friends from the Northeast on this call, I've had the privilege to travel around a little bit this year and talk to folks about how they'll be using Coupa. Before that, I've pretty much had a hand in implementing or training the rollout of Coupa for most of our properties that already have it. So I like to think I know a little bit of what we're doing here. So just briefly, I am not going to sit here and read PowerPoints to you. That being said, we are going to kind of kick things off a little bit with me reading PowerPoints to you. So high-level overview of what we're doing. Stratton Warren or Red Rocks, they're going away, and hopefully those dates have been communicated to you. If they haven't, please reach out to your local sourcing department and they can help you get a timeline together. But we're also moving forward with the Oracle implementation, which is replacing Great Plains and Infinium. I think in a very wise decision, we decided we should just do them both at the same time. And I'm really looking forward to the synergies and the transparency that's going to be brought forward when we're all on Coupa. As a buyer, it's always helpful to look around at what your peers are doing when you're in a jam, and it really helps you kind of figure out how you can move forward with what information is already out there. We're not going to go through this chart, but this has been a long time in the making. This has been discussed for well over a year. And then once furlough ended for most of us, the team really picked up. And this is a little bit of how we've managed the project. So a lot of people are working very hard on this. And I'm going to repeat myself a million times. If you have questions, let us know. We are happy to talk Coupa or Oracle or answer your questions. That's what we're here for. So what is Coupa? Coupa is the leading procure-to-pay cloud-based software management software platform for contracts, purchasing, inventory management, and supplier collaboration. We also use it for invoicing. So it really is a one-stop shop. If you think about how you do all of those things right now, when we had Stratton Warren and Council Bluffs, that each one of those words were a separate um, software program. So Coupa does help put everything in one spot. It really is. It really makes things transparent. Everything is visible to you. It's also visible to your suppliers, and they can see their invoicing. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. But it really is a great tool to really get into the modern times of how things are done in the purchasing and inventory management world. So very excited about that. Penn implemented Coupa to replace Stratton Warren. We started this process, like I said, almost 5 years ago. The properties are already on it. We're already using it for everything that we're going to get everybody else on. Some of the highlights, it has pretty strong reporting capabilities. It has end-to-end visibility to transaction statuses, which includes the receiving documents, the purchase orders, the invoices. It is the closest thing to real time that's on the market, and that includes your visibility as an end user into what's available inside of your property's warehouse, what you can purchase from your vendors. There's a lot of very unique things that these other online platforms don't offer. And my favorite thing about Coupa is it's cloud-based, and it's on. You just go to a link in your browser. No more PRD, no more multiple passwords, no more green screen technology from the early 1980s. We're stepping into the modern era of technology, and I couldn't be more excited about that. So some other key changes. As I alluded to, all purchases and inventory transactions will take place once you go live in Coupa. We will talk about the different versions or there are basically 3 different ways to buy or purchase inside of Coupa, and we'll talk about all 3 of those. E-invoicing is something you're going to hear a lot of communication about. What it is it's your supplier's ability to electronically invoice as opposed to dropping an invoice at the dock, emailing it directly to the end user, emailing it to your accounts payable team if you have one, mailing something in, faxing something in. It not only allows great visibility as to what's going on with any particular invoice, it also gets our vendors paid faster, and it reduces the touch points. So a paper invoice, I think we mapped it out, could touch as many as like 7 to 10 hands. This touches the one person that uploads it, and then we either wire or cut a check. It really kind of minimizes that, and there's technology in place that approves these invoices as long as everything lines up. So it's really interesting stuff. We still have item numbers, but in a departure from what we're used to, those item numbers will not be created by your property's purchasing team. There is a process that your buyers have been trained on to submit a request for item numbers to be created. That's no longer a property task any longer. Freight and tax, we're going to go through this, but you don't put lines on your purchase orders for freight and tax. We'll go through that in a minute. Order lists, in terms of just verbiage, an order list is a Stratton Warren profile. So we're going to stop using the word profile and start using the word order list. And another departure from how things are done currently, property sourcing does not manage your order list. You manage your order list, and you have full capability to create, edit, rearrange, delete. The power is really at your fingertips. After the fact purchase orders, we'll talk about that. We don't do them, and we'll talk about why, but we don't do those anymore. Supplier maintenance, again, is not going to be done on the property level. There is a process. Your purchasing groups should be trained on that, but that's also done through Coupa now, through our supplier management tool. Notifications, you're going to get a lot of notifications, and it might feel overwhelming at the beginning, but I can assure you They all have a purpose, and sometimes it's a great reminder of, I haven't done my job. That's how I view it. And it's a good reminder to complete that task, which probably takes less than 20 seconds, to ensure that I either get something on order, that I get an invoice approved, or that I receive something. So a lot of notifications either via email or in your to-dos on the Coupa homepage. We're going to talk about receiving. Most receiving will be done at the dock still, but there are some things that you as the end user will be responsible for receiving. And then wrapping up key changes, chart of accounts. I hope I'm not breaking any news to you, but the chart of accounts and the GL numbers, they're changing. The Suexa tables are going away, and we're all getting on one formal chart of accounts, which is great news because we've all been one big happy family for over 2 years now. So this will help us really identify from a sourcing and finance analytics side, where are we spending our money? Right now, it's kind of complicated to answer that question. We'll talk about management hierarchy and approvals for those of you on this call that are managers. We'll talk about supplier sites or punchouts, and then we'll briefly touch on customized views. Leading right into approval workflows, here's the chart of what is available. And by the way, if you can't see my screen, hopefully you can find a way to see it, get it pulled up, because most of this is going to be me demonstrating how the system works. So approvals, they vary depending on the requester, the supplier, the item purchased. So food and beverage items do not require approvals, where all general items from external suppliers will route through a management hierarchy. So if you are a manager, if the word manager is in your job title, you are likely approved to, or you're likely allowed to approve spend up to $1,000. If you are a director, it's likely $10,000, a VP, $75,000, and so on and so forth. So if you're buying food or non-alcoholic beverages, regardless if you're purchasing them from your warehouse or from an external supplier, there is no approval for that. The same can be said for food and beverage disposables. Now, if you're purchasing alcohol or liquor from your warehouse, on-property warehouse, there are no approvals. If you're purchasing alcohol from an external supplier or a direct order, then there will be approvals. And then, like I said, anything outside of those three buckets, there is an approval matrix, and we touch on that quite a bit during training. So now we're going to jump into the training. Before I do that, does anybody have any questions based on what I've trained you so far? Silence is resounding approval and acceptance when I train, so great, we're on the right track. So how do I log into Coupa? It's really simple. If you're logged in and watching this demonstration right now on your work computer, you're logged into Coupa. So it's part of our single sign-on process, and the link is right here. It's pnkinc.coupahost.com. We'll send this out to you after your training, and once your property rolls into Coupa. But like I said, no VPN needed, no PRD 400, no more green screen. What else is super unique about this is that you can log on regardless of the browser that you're using, whether it's on your phone, whether you're at home, if you needed to log in. Your login is very simple. It's your PIN National Gaming email address and whatever password you sign into your computer with. You're no longer chained to your workstation at your desk. So here's what Coupa looks like. When you're in the test environment, this top banner is gray, and we put the word test in giant red letters up top. In the live environment, it's blue. So really interesting. So the first thing that you need to look at, especially for you foodies, I know sometimes that you share workstations and stuff like that. The first thing that you should do when you go to Coupa, and I would recommend highly recommend bookmark this link right here because you don't want to type in pnkinc.coupahost.com every time. So bookmark it right there. The other thing you want to check on is someone else's started sharing. Hang on a second. All right. Somebody just took over the sharing access there. I'm going to give it right back to myself. Okay. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened. Okay. So back to what I was saying. You want to make sure that your name is right up here on the right-hand side of your screen. So I know that that's my name, so I'm in good shape. Now, just like with Amazon or pretty much any other e-commerce platform that you use, you can either click on the logo, the Penn National Gaming logo up top, or you can click on the house and it's going to bring you to the main page. Also on the main page, you'll see your cart right there, your notifications, which is the blue bell, and these to-dos right here. So I normally don't let it stack up like this, but it's a great training opportunity. So my OCD's been on overdrive this morning while we awaited this training. And then the last thing I'll call your attention to is the recent activity. So these are the 5 most recent orders that I have created, requisitions that I have created. So they'll cycle out the more that I buy. They'll drop out. The bottom one will drop out, and the most recent one will be at the top. Okay. And I think now we're just okay. So now we're going into ordering and how to use your cart. So we'll talk about punch-outs, catalogs, free text, requisitions, how to request a quote, what to do about tax and freight, deposits. We'll touch on super briefly. And then we will talk about non-PO invoices and why we don't do after-the-fact POs. So the first way to purchase inside a Coupa, and honestly the easiest way, is a punch-out. And I'm not going to go through what each one of these icons are, and yours may look a little bit different than mine, since my role within the organization is to be the manager of a procurement department. But you'll notice everyone's favorite spot to buy stuff, Amazon first. So only buyers have access to this. Later on in this training, we will talk about how you can purchase stuff from Amazon. Bargreen Ellingson is the preferred supplier of food and beverage smallwares, china glass silver, other food and beverage really related items. CDW for technology, Cintas for wardrobe, MBS, I think we all know what they do, pre-printed forms, My Choice pens, things like that. And then we'll stop at Office Depot. So if I click on the Office Depot logo, it takes me to what kind of looks like the Office Depot website. And that's what you can expect inside of these punch-outs. A punch-out exists because the sourcing department has reached a contractual agreement with a supplier on margins, availability, delivery requirements, a whole host of criteria. Buying from them is beyond simple. So in the search bar, I just type in the word paper. And here's the paper that I always buy, right here. So punch-outs cannot be used for items that are inventory. So in the warehouse world, we can't purchase items for our warehouse in a punch-out. I won't get into whether or not your property is inventorying office paper or not. What I can tell you is, if you want to have that conversation offline, I can make a very compelling argument as to why you should not. We don't here, so I'm going to add this case of copy paper, and I hit the checkout button right there. And now I'm going to introduce you to the Coupa cart. The thing that you need to know about the cart is it doesn't change. Regardless of how you're buying, the cart doesn't change. So the first thing I want to do is identify my name. Sure as heck better be the very first piece on created by. If it's not, I'm logged in under someone else somehow. Abandon your cart, click save for later, log out, and then log in as yourself. The next thing that I always do is I look over here and follow my mouse on the ship to. Especially when you go live, make sure that that's accurate. If it's not, contact your property sourcing. They know what to do to get it right. If you work for multiple properties, you can just click on that spyglass and select the property that you're looking for by hitting the green choose button. You also have the ability to order on behalf of someone else. So if you work in your buffet and that's where you're coded to start, but you're buying something for your diner, start typing whoever leads the efforts in that diner, click on their name, and their department number will pop up right here. It'll change. So what will happen when you execute this purchase, Jim would receive a notification that I have placed an order on his behalf, and he will get the details of what that order contains. Now, if it's an order that requires an approval and you want to justify or provide a slight narrative as to what you're doing and why, you can type it in this scope and justification box, and the approver of this order will see it. So then Jim, or I would see that, since I'm Jim's approver, I would see that box right there. As we roll down, you'll see the department name, and then your accounting company code and AP segment. Those two numbers should always match. As I mentioned with the GL numbers that we're changing, so is your property number, and so is your department number. These two numbers should be the same. So starting Monday, instead of 076, that will say 2310 in both boxes. Your property ID, the alpha version of your property ID is changing as well to a four letters. So those will be some unique changes that you'll see from there. As we scroll down, you'll notice a red asterisk next to deposit required, capital, and CRF requires corporate legal review. Especially as it relates to food and beverage, or for those that don't work in the sourcing department, the answer to these three is 99.9% of the time going to be no. So there is no deposit. This is not a capital purchase, and I am not routing a contract for review. I'm just buying a case of paper. Now, this could be slightly frustrating, but this has to be, those three questions have to be answered as no every time that you execute your cart. Once you say no, no, and no, you can skip all the way down to your cart. Now, one of my favorite things and one of my favorite benefits of Coupa over Stratton Warren is I was a super poor Stratton Warren user. I had no exposure to it prior to starting with Penn National. I struggled mightily with it. And when I did something wrong and it would just beep at you, and I would get super frustrated. Coupa's a little bit different. It highlights in red what has to be addressed before you can execute whatever it is you're trying to do. So in this situation, I very clearly need to put a need by date. Now, I can't stress this enough. Be realistic. Don't put today's date on there, because all it's going to do is just start sending you notifications asking if you've received this item. Be realistic. Well, I know that Office Depot delivers Monday through Friday, so they're not going to be here today because I'm just placing this order. So I need to set my date as Monday the 11th. When I'm done with that, I hit save. Another thing to know about ordering in a Punchout, once you've left the supplier's website, you can't modify the item description, the price, or the quantity. So if you say, oh shoot, I needed 2 cases, delete your item, go back to the Office Depot Punchout and order 2 cases. So I hit save. And then that's not the GL or the department that I want this to go to. So you can change that one of 2 ways. If you don't know your GL number, your department number, your property number, you just click on this spyglass. And you can type in what you know. And search. I put all of my paper to general supplies. So I click the choose button, and you'll notice that approval string updates. The other way that you can change your GL number, if you know it off the top of your head, is to type it. And then click on the pop down. It's going to think, and we're good to go. So we scroll down. It shows that I have created this order on behalf of Jim Cox. And then it goes to me. But why? So you can read in that area, management hierarchy approver. The approver is the manager of Jim Cox with an approval limit of $50,000 US for requisition. Now, if I wanted to bring awareness to somebody, and this is super helpful for those outlets that have shifts at multiple times throughout the day. This is popular with my folks that come in the morning, but they want to make sure that their swing or grave shift teams know what's going on. You can click on the add button, and Coupa is intuitive. So when you start typing, it's kind of like texting. It tries to guess what you're saying. So Nikki Biersdorfer is my boss. I click on her name, and I go to the approver position. I'm faced with 3 options when I click on that box. I can add Nikki as an approver after the current approver. I can add Nikki as the approver at the end of this approval string, or I can add her as a watcher. So what's the difference? The first 2 allow her to approve the order. The last one just sends her an email and notifies her of what's being done. And so the watcher is probably, it's not probably, it is the most common thing that people use it for. They can't edit the order, they can't receive against it, they can't do any of that, but they at least know what's going on, and hopefully they don't duplicate your efforts. For this example, I'm going to add Nikki after the current approver. And you notice she just dropped right in there. I'm also going to add Nikki, or I'll add somebody else as a watcher. So Ed Farrow also works here in Council Bluffs, and I want him to know what's going on. So I add him as a watcher. I click the blue add button, and Ed pops in under this watchers category that wasn't there before, but it's there now. When I'm done, I submit it for approval. Any questions about Punchouts? All right, we're marching forward. So for the rest of this demonstration, we're pretty much going to be in test. The next thing I want to talk about is catalog purchasing. So what you'll see at the top of your home screen is this very direct question: what do you need? The one disclaimer I'm going to give you is this isn't Google. So don't think that you're going to type unicorn in there and we're not going to get pictures of unicorns or anything like that. Where this pulls information from is from the catalogs or the item numbers that we already have in our system. So if I type the word water in, a whole bunch of information is going to pop up. I can pick items from my local Coke distributor. I can pick items from Cisco Lincoln, which is my local OpCo. I could pick something from my wine company. Or I can pick it from my warehouse, which is right there. So you can search, you can add items to your cart right out of the gate by just hitting the plus or minus and add to cart. You can also go into the catalog itself by hovering over the word catalog and clicking in the start typing box and click on Cisco Lincoln. These are the item numbers that we have created to purchase from Cisco Lincoln. So there's no buyer intervention. There's no calling your rep saying, hey, what's the price? You don't have to log into their website to look anything up. It's right here. So if I'm a chef and I know that I'm going to run a little bit of a special, I'm going to put a steamship. Or you know what? I'm going to pick something that's not a catch weight. I need to buy beef fritters for country fried steaks. If this is a direct item, you can look up this information right now. It tells you that there's 15 11-ounce fritters in a case. I just need a case. I hit add to cart. That drops down, or I go up to my cart, which is top right. Same old cart that we know. And then in our test environment, we have the new department numbers and all that, and the new property numbers. So if I fumble through this, I apologize. I changed my department number to the buffet, and I have to answer those 3 familiar questions. Deposit, no. Capital, no. Contract, no. So you'll notice I have 2 items in my cart, and I notice that I have to assign a need by date, but I also know these GL numbers, they're not right. So I showed you how to change them one at a time. Here's how you change a whole bunch of them at once. Click on the box right there with the little arrow pointing down to it, and they both highlight. And I click the word edit selected. Well, I know that Cisco comes Monday, Wednesday, Friday for me. They're not coming today for or they're not going to deliver something today that I'm just ordering. So I need to pick a realistic date. I'm picking Monday. That's my next delivery opportunity. I could toss some delivery comments in here like deliver ASAP. Thanks. My warehouse team will now see that, but I still have this issue hanging out there about my GL line. So I click, again, you can just click in it and type it yourself, or the spyglass. I typed in 2000, which is my buffet's new department number. You'll notice that division, if you have those at your property, they aren't a thing anymore. This should go to cost of sales food. I pick the green choose button, and lastly, I hit the blue adjust button. You're going to notice 3 things changed. Number 1, there's no more red. Number 2, the GLs look right. And lastly, in each line, it says deliver ASAP in the delivery comments. Scroll down, and just like we talked about, food purchased does not require an approval. There is no one after me now, so this is a one-stop shop. Have confidence in yourself. You know what you're doing. You don't need that security blanket of sourcing or someone else looking at your order to approve it. You can do this. So I hit submit for approval. And the green banner, and you'll hear me say this a few times, green means go. Green is good. It popped up, it says it's approved, and then in my recent activity, you're going to see it's on ordered now. Any questions about purchasing out of a catalog? Super. We march forward to Orderless. So Orderless is just to the left of catalogs. And as a reminder, Orderless replace Stratton Warren profiles. So if you're going to place an order out of your order list, and this is the way I strongly recommend that you order anything that's in your warehouse, anything that you regularly purchase should have an item number. It should be in an order list. So I need to place a warehouse order. I'm going to start typing. And I found the one I want. And we're going to talk about how to create order lists and all that stuff here in a minute. But this is what they look like. So to order from them is equally as simple. I know that I need 2 tubs of ice cream, and I'm just hitting the tab button here. 1 thing of milk, 1 thing of mayonnaise, and to call to your attention, I need mayonnaise PCs, and as I mentioned earlier, Coupa is real time. So if my warehouse team is doing their job and receiving items as they come in, wrecking items as they go out, you're going to be able to see what's in your warehouse. Now, as someone who also oversees the warehouse, I'm pleading with you, don't order 10 PC mayonnaises if you see that 9 are available. You have nothing to gain from there. We don't hold back orders, so you're going to have to reorder that anyways. Try to give some awareness to that if you can. So I've placed my order now. 4 units, $129. I add it all to my cart. 3 items are added to my cart, and here we go. We're right back to where we started. I answer my 3 favorite questions of no, no, and no. And I know that I need to change my dates so I can do them. This is a warehouse order, so I expect them to deliver today. I hit save. And I still need to change my GL. So I'm going to select them all. Just going to change a few things. So I default to the warehouse inventory number, and we're going to adjust that for future trainings. So that's why I'm having to change this GL. You should not have to change your GL. It should default to whatever outlet, restaurant, however you guys term it, however, wherever you're assigned, you will default to that. No more approvers. Hit submit for approval. And as soon as the internet catches up, green means go, everything's good. That's how you order from an order list. Seems pretty simple. Any questions there? Okay, we're going to march forward to what we call a free text requisition. The free text requisition is kind of the Swiss Army knife of purchasing. So I clicked on this box that says write a request, and it pops up. Well, what the heck am I going to write here? So you will do a free text when you need a quote on something, when you don't have an item number for something. If it's a one-off purchase, you're going to write a free text. So here are some of the tips for you that will help. Number 1, ensure that you receive whatever it is that you're trying to order. So if we take all of the fail points out and address them when we write our requisition, you're going to be successful. It also helps your purchasing team. It also helps our data analytics team. If you are accurate in the information that you put in here, and I'm telling you this as someone who has done it the wrong way. Don't repeat my mistakes. You'll only regret. So if I needed to buy, go to my Cisco website, and I need some beef stew, since that's our top item. I click on beef stew. I'm literally gonna copy over the information from Cisco. Put it in there. Cisco Lincoln. My commodity, what is a commodity? A commodity is a bucket that we have created to try to put as much information out there to answer the question of what are we buying? When we run our reports and say, okay, our beef spend is up 3% for this quarter. Where are we spending more money? Believe it or not, there are a lot of people that are doing that at a corporate level. So if we are accurate in what we're putting in here, then we'll, as a sourcing team, we'll take that information and try to find better value in the beef that we're buying. What it also does is it also provides the guiding area to what GL this should default to. So I'm going to go down to food and beverage, and I'm not clicking on anything, I'm just hovering. I go to food and I find meat. We're buying meat. Well, there's beef. I'm going to click on beef. What's my price? $6.17. So I'm going to type in 6.175. And it looks like there was 2 pouches, 5 pounds apiece. So I'm going to put 10 pounds. And this could be a case. You could just do 61.75 for 1 case. Try to find the proper unit of measure there. But if you look at our unit of measures, we've tried to think of just about anything. If we haven't, and we don't have what you need, let your property sourcing team know. They can work with our e-procurement or our analysts to figure out, can we add it? Should we add it? There's some thought that goes into that. Then you'll notice there's need buy. So we address the need buy question in our cart in the other examples of how we purchase. On our free text requisition, we answer this question. Again, we know that Cisco comes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I put Monday. Lastly, if you know and have access to this number, this is the most important piece of information that you can put in there, the supplier part number. So I'm going to go back to my Cisco website and copy my SCPC and paste it in there. If I have multiple things I need to free text, you just click this box at the bottom, write multiple requests, and this box will stay put. If I don't, I click add to cart. You can write a free text for as many items as you need. What you can't write a free text for is anything in the warehouse, and we recommend that you don't write them for anything that's in the catalog. We suggest that you use the catalog to purchase those items. I add to the cart. You'll notice the drop down, the box went away, and the drop down for the cart pops up. And we're right here again in our old cart. Now, we've gone through this cart multiple times. This will probably be the last time I go through it with you. But I'm going to update all this information. I answer no, no, and no. Changing my GL. And I don't have to modify my need by date because it's already there. Now something different has changed, and hopefully you noticed it. In the approval string, there's this shadowy orange figure that says pending buyer action. Who is that shadowy figure? That's your purchasing department. Any free text that's written will go to your buyers for review and for them to analyze it before it either approves or moves on to the next approver and gets to the supplier. So a couple things to keep in mind. The more information you can provide, the better. Account for, sometimes your buyers, unless they're chained to their desk, they are not always looking at these things. So if it's time sensitive, I highly recommend that you pick up the phone and call. Give them a heads up that it's coming. Our goal, or my goal as a buyer, is to minimize free text. It's to say, hey, are you going to be buying this stew meat regularly? If you are, then hey, let's get an item number. We'll add it to the catalog, and you can add it to your order list. We'll make it. My goal is to make your job as easy as possible. And I know from the folks that I've talked to around the company, they share that same common goal. So if we can create an item number, fabulous. Sometimes that's not realistic. Now, if you didn't know how much this product was and you just needed a quote on it and said, hey, I need a quote on stew meat I know it's going to come from Cisco. I'm going to cancel this and go back to my main page. This is how you get a quote. I need stew meat, choice. I don't know who to buy it from, but I know that I want beef stew meat. Like, I'm not a chef, so I maybe assume that there's like chicken stew. I don't know. But that is helpful to know that you want beef stew meat. How much do you want? You know, do you want 20 pounds? Oops. 20 pounds. And then you'll notice there's an asterisk on commodity. There's an asterisk on need buy. I would not recommend that you put the date that you plan on serving the stew meat. I would put the date that you need it for prep. That will guide your buyer's decision making and who they're going to recommend that you purchase it from. Any questions on how you request a quote? Man, you guys are humming right along. Okay, so I mentioned it earlier. How do we buy from Amazon? So you won't have access to the properties Amazon account. It's no longer going to go on a credit card if that's how you're doing things or anything like that. We have this wonderful Amazon Punchout. That makes our life a lot easier as buyers. I know I was super pumped because I didn't have to use my Amazon account, my own Amazon account. I didn't have to toggle between my credit cards and all that stuff anymore. This is what our Amazon account looks like. It looks just like your Amazon that you probably have for a home. So how do you order from Amazon? You write a free text. And I'm kind of blanking on what we want to buy. You know what? I want to buy this Echo Globe thing. So highlight it, copy it, paste it. Pick Amazon as your vendor, and then we're just going to put this on our desk. So we're going to pick office equipment. My version, or the version of Amazon, says it's $79.99. If you don't know the price, don't sweat it. You don't have to put it in there. I just want one each, and I need it on Wednesday. Here's where it gets important. So there's what we call it. I think it's called the AIN, or the Amazon item number. And if you scroll down, since they're educating us on everything Alexa, you find, I'll show you where to find it. This is a good reason. I can't find where the AIN is. Oh wait, technical. Should have that number in. Oh well, we're gonna say screw it. And we're gonna highlight the link. We're gonna go back to our cart. And then there's these three attachments at the bottom. It's file, URL, and text. Since this is a URL, I'm going to get there and click add. Add it to my cart, and you'll notice it's up there in my cart. Process that through, send it to your buyer. Your buyer will then place that order on your behalf, and it'll arrive in 2 to 4 days. Any questions on how to purchase from Amazon? All right. Now, what do we do if you need to place an order on something with a deposit? You're going to write a free text, And we'll say that this is for tablecloths. And I'm going to change my vendor to my linen supply company. I'm going to change and then you go over to your need by date, and if the tablecloths are actually going to show up in 2 weeks, then I put that there. I hit add to cart. But I have a deposit and it's 50%. So I just ordered 100 tablecloths at $79.99 for $7,999. If I needed to do a deposit, a 50% deposit on half of that, I'm going to free text. Your description is deposit. Now you'll notice spick and span linen supply is still there, but my commodity changes. I change my commodity to deposit, and I change my price to $3,999.50. My quantity is 1, and I need that deposit paid next Friday. I add it to my cart, and then you have to do a deposit reversal. Come down to my commodity. I select the word deposit reversal, and then I put a minus sign in front of my unit price. So those $2 amounts are going to wash out, so that my PO for $7,999 doesn't become a PO for like $16,000. I uncheck my box for writing multiple requests, and I add it to my cart. For some reason. Okay, there we go. I'm going to delete a couple of the lines that are in there that we had already messed around with. By highlighting them and hitting the delete button, it asks you if you're sure. You say yes. And it looks like I put one too many in there. I delete that. Okay. So you'll notice my PO balances out. It's $7,999. But I've got problems. And it's on my GL. I'm going to look up the right spot to put this. My new property number, my department number, and I hit the enter button. And I'm going to go with equipment and furniture, non-capital. Adjust it. It goes away. Now, it still is going to my buyer. And we know that we do have a deposit, so you better mark that yes. It's still going to the buyer, but you'll notice Nikki Beersdorfer, my boss, is now being asked to approve this order. So once this goes away to the buyer is going to approve it, and then it goes off to Nikki for approval. Deposits are very uncommon, but are there any questions on that? Okay. Tax and freight. So I alluded to this earlier. Do we put tax and freight on your purchase order? The answer is no. And if a supplier says, hey, look, I can't accept your PO, there's no tax, there's no freight on it, that's okay. Tell them that's okay. You have that opportunity to add those expenses. We will pay those expenses, but they have to be added on the invoice, not on the purchase order. You're not buying tax. You're not buying freight. Those are ancillary charges. And if we put them on the lines, it throws off our tax calculation. So we don't do what's on the left. This is on the right, how we handle it. So when your supplier uploads an invoice, if they send an invoice in and they don't manually upload their invoices, our accounting team can upload their invoice, add the shipping or handling or miscellaneous fee to it, and account for the appropriate tax. Any questions on that? Okay. After the fact POs, to make it very visually obvious, we do not do after the fact POs, but why? So if a requisition is entered after a commitment has already been made or an invoice has already been received, purchasing has to take action on it, even though that adds no value. So the purchasing department is adding no value except for paperwork processing, and that's not the purpose of the purchasing department. There is the time in approving those requisitions. Even if it auto approves, it's not worth it. If it's a requisition that's for $100,000, you're now tying up your time as the person who enters it, the buyer's time to review it and approve it, your direct manager or director's time reviewing and approving it, and your general manager's time approving it. That is a giant waste of time. Coupa creates the purchase orders automatically so that you don't have to go in and flip it or anything like that. Once it's approved, it goes out to the vendor. Creating after the fact POs, I promise you, will create in duplicate shipments, which creates invoicing issues. Another reason why not to do it. Non-purchase order invoices. So if you don't have a PO for something, but you have an invoice, they need to be manually emailed, entered into Coupa by an internal team member, and then routed for approval. If you create a PO for it ahead of time, all of that work is done. So that's where we find the value in creating these requisitions and purchase orders before we receive the product. Any questions on that? Okay, so we're moving on to section 2. We have well exceeded the halfway point. So how do you see where your order is? How do you request a change if your order is not approved? How do you change your purchase order after it's approved? So viewing your order status is super simple. In your recent activity, your 5 most recent orders, you're going to see green is ordered, orange is pending buyer action, purple is received. You can also get there by hovering over your name and clicking on the word activity. It defaults to requisitions, and these are all the recs that I have written. So I can go and find the one I need, and then the 4th column from the left is status. Is it ordered? Is it received? Is it closed or even partially received? All of that information is there. Now, what do I do if I wrote a requisition, a free text, and I realized I made a terrible mistake? I need to fix this before either the buyer addresses it and approves it and makes it to the supplier, or before my boss sees it. You look at all these icons on the right-hand side. This arrow, if you're ever unsure what an icon does, hover over it. It'll tell you. So the red arrow that points to the left is to withdraw a requisition. So if I made a mistake on that one that we did, the deposit and the deposit reversal, I just hit the red arrow and it says, hey, do you really want to withdraw this? Yep. It goes from pending buyer action status to draft status. Now I can go back in by clicking on the pencil and fixing it. What happens? What do I do if I've already written an order like this one that we did for water and beef fritters? I get a call from my Cisco rep and they say, hey, we have a minimum on the beef fritters. You have to buy at least 2 cases. You just click on your purchase order number, you find that order, you click on the order, you scroll all the way to the bottom and request change. By clicking on that button, any field that can be changed unlocks. So we know that we need to go from 1 to 2. I'm going to say I need 2 cases, not 1. And you'll notice it goes to the buyers. So you'll have a buyers group that will get a notification and say, hey, can you check this out? Chad wants to make this change. Are you sure you're good with it? And if they approve it, then your vendor will be notified that you've updated your PO. So I submit the change request. That order goes from ordered to pending change request approval. Any questions on how to change your orders? Okay. If your order has been approved, you can't withdraw it. And I think that's a thing to take away from that. You can't withdraw that order. All right, order lists. You are responsible for creating your own order list or your department's order list. That your Stratton Warren profile is not going to transfer over or anything like that. So if you switch over on Monday, I recommend before you leave today, print your profile because you're going to want that info to arrange your order list. So to create one, we try to make it as obvious as possible. Click on the word that says create order list. And this box pops up. Do you want to create this order list specific to a supplier? Or do you want it to be for all suppliers? I recommend that you leave it to all suppliers, but ultimately, that's up to you. I hit the create, and you'll notice anything that has to be addressed has a red asterisk next to it. So, to name them, we recommend the alpha abbreviation of your property. So Mary Star Council Bluffs is ASCB, and I prefer to put a dash. You don't have to. And then I'm going to create this for the sports bar, so ASCB dash sports bar. And then inventory for beer. If you work in an outlet that has a front of house management team and a back of house management team, and the ordering is not done by just one person, make sure you call out, is it a front of house order list or a back of house order list? We jump down to who can see this. You have three choices: everyone, only me, or only members of these content groups. I recommend only members of these content groups. And I need the people in Council Bluffs to see this, so I select Council Bluffs. If you pick only me and you go on PTO, whoever's filling in for you won't be able to see this, so they can't order. The biggest pitfall when creating an order list is if you click on this box that says lock this order list. It may seem like a good idea, but it's not. And the reason why it isn't is because your buyers are analysts in Las Vegas. No one can edit or modify your list if that box is checked. Only you can. So if you need help, unfortunately, we can't help you. So uncheck that box. Adding a line is easy. So I'm going to add a few lines from my warehouse, and I'm going to start with Bud Light. It pops down and I select that. And let's go with some Busch Light and Ultra. So you'll notice, how many do I have? It will tell you. I have 47 cases, 103 cases, 54 cases. Now that doesn't matter when you're setting up your order list, but it is still visible. Another pitfall will be if you haven't saved your order list yet and it says set order amount. If I type the number 1 in there, every time I order something in this order list, it's going to add that case of Bud Light. It's happened to us many times where someone thinks they're just ordering, but they're actually editing. So make sure when you're setting up your order list that it's all zeros in that category. You hit the word save. We've now created a new order list. So what happens if Anheuser-Busch comes out with something new and we bring it in and you want to buy it? How do you change your order list? Well, hover over the icons and find the icon that's going to get us there. Do I want to delete it? No. Do I want to print it? No. Do I want to edit it? Yeah. So I click on edit. And I just go down to add a line. Add my supplier for the warehouse, which is the internal supplier. And then for this, we're just going to pretend like AB does White Claw, even though we don't. And we're going to save it. That's how you edit it. It's that simple. One of the things that I get pretty nerdy about is this ability to do a sheet to shelf concept. So how do I make my order list look exactly as my cooler lays out? We have an answer for that. So you click the edit button. You change your sort by to custom. And these 4 lines, all this weird stuff pops up. If my cooler lays out with White Claw at the front, Ultra after that, and Busch Light, then Bud Light, I just click on the 4 arrows. So you see how that pops up? I hold and I drag. It's that easy. I hit the save button, and then by hitting the printer, it allows me to print order lists. So if you're trying to make it as easy as possible to stay organized in how you're ordering, if you organize your order list, you'll be able to write in these far 2 columns or in any of those 4 boxes how many it is that you need of each of those. Good question, Debbie. 2 questions. Can you limit the view to individual people or just to groups? And can the order list include both warehouse and outside vendor items? So to answer your first question, no. They're limited to properties. So unfortunately, you can't just say like, hey, Debbie and I are the only ones that can see this. To answer your second question, though, yes, you can add, as long as there's an item number for it, you can mix your inventory and direct items if you want. How we do it in Counts Plus is a little bit different. We do inventory in one order list, and then we organize our direct order list separately. But really, at the end of the day, it's what do you want to do? It's your operation to run. You get to decide. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions on order lists? So a couple things that can happen. If a catalog turns off, if an item number is no longer available, that you can't order that item anymore. So this is what it looks like when that happens. You'll notice we used to have forks and teaspoons in an order list. We used to have a Bar Green Ellingson catalog instead of a Punchout. Those items are not available anymore. So to get rid of them, I click on the pencil, I click in this box, and this little trash can comes up. So trash can's there, it says 1 item selected, and I deleted that item. I'm going to cancel that because I have 13 more training classes to do. But that's how you do it. So you hit save, you move forward. Ask your sourcing team, hey, this is no longer available. What am I supposed to do? They should have an answer. Any other questions on Orderless? Okay, we are briefly going to touch on desktop research. And the word briefly cannot be stressed enough. If the product comes across your loading dock, your warehouse or receiving team should be receiving it. There are some times where that doesn't happen, and you can address those if you need to. And it's really simple. Recent activity, you just hover over the word actions, and there's the receive button, or you hover over your name and you go to activity. The truck icon inside of Coupa is universal for receive. So I click on the truck, and this box is going to pop up. You don't need to put anything in the receipt date because it's going to default to today. you can skip that. You can either go to quick receipts and click in the all box, or let's just say that I only got the water, so I'm just going to receive that. Down here, accounting company code and property code have to be filled in with your property ID, your 4-digit property ID. And if there's a damage or anything like that, talk to your warehouse team. But if you need to short pay an invoice, this is how you do it. You just click short pay, find the description that best fits the issue. And hit submit. That easy. Now we have another way that you can receive. So if a supplier uploads an invoice and it to a purchase order, you're going to get an email that looks like this. To do, confirm receipt for invoice, blah, blah, blah. This is an email that I received 2 nights ago, and it's for an SPO that I created, and the supplier submitted an invoice for $518. You can either click on the word receive, or you'll see that same notification right here in your to-dos. You just click the word create receipt and type in how many you received. Hit save. And green banner, we're in good shape. There are multiple ways, you're going to find this in Coupa, there are multiple ways to do the same task, which is good. But these are the ways that we recommend that you get there. Another thing that you're going to run into is invoice approvals. Or if you're a manager, director, whatever, you may be asked to approve orders that have been submitted by your team members. So invoice approvals are only brought forward when there's a variance. So I have a variance on this invoice that was submitted. I clicked on that in my to-dos. My line unit price compared to the purchase order unit differs from tolerance of 5% by 31 cents. So we have a 5% variance threshold. Anything above that requires approval. I roll down, and well, I created the PO, so it's asking me, hey, do you want to approve this? And if I don't, I can hit reject, but I have to put something in the comments as to why I'm rejecting that. After I'm done, it goes to the buyers group, which I also happen to be a part of. So I hit the approve button, and it goes away. The other thing that you'll see, like I said, when your employees put a requisition in to purchase something, this is a requisition submitted by my warehouse supervisor. So it looks like he's wanting to buy some gloves from Grainger. Do whatever you normally do now when you review purchases. I pretty much just make sure, like, hey, did I budget for this? Does it go to the right account? Yep. You'll see there I am to approve the rec. I approve it. Now that's being transmitted to Grainger. Are there any questions on that? Okay, one of the last things that we're going to talk about here is what is an SPO. Well, an SPO is a standing purchase order. You may refer to them in Stratton Warren as blanket orders. You may hear people refer to them as service purchase orders. There's a few different ways to say it, I guess. One of the examples that I use is an SPO that I created in test for my hotel linens that we have laundered. So here's an order that I created for my laundry services for the year of 2021. I wrote a free text requisition for $20,000. I billed it to where I felt like it was appropriate. My commodity is laundry. I haven't received anything against it. So just like that email I just showed you that said, hey, a supplier has submitted an invoice you need to receive it. There's a couple of different ways to do it. You can go to your actual purchase order, click the word receive. I would recommend that you go to your activity. And you can type your PO number if you know it. So I click on the truck. And what I don't want to do here is I don't want to click all. So I wrote a PO for $20,000 in laundry expense. Well, we're not spending all of that here on January 8th. The supplier said, hey, here's your weekly bill. It's $750. I type $750 in, type my accounting code, my property code, and I hit submit. That invoice will now clear out. Are there any questions on standing purchase orders? Okay, so we are hitting the home stretch. So thank you for bearing through. We have now hit 75 minutes, so I appreciate your patience. So in addition to the training that I have provided for you today, you're also going to get some documents sent to you. You will get the P&G Coupa training for beginners. You will get instructions on Coupa app. So if you are a manager or director and you approve a lot of orders, I recommend, if the company pays for your phone, I recommend that you download the app. It's a great way to approve orders when you're not around, or if you're out walking the property and it's time sensitive. You can't create recs, you can't receive, those types of things. The app isn't used for that, but it is good for invoice and order approvals. We have a frequently asked question tracker, so once you get into this, you're like, geez, I wonder if anyone's ever thought about that. Maybe. So we have a tracker that will actually, in Teams, that will take you to where we're tracking all these questions. And then lastly, something I never would have thought that we would have, we have a YouTube channel with like 62 videos. The videos are very specific and they're short, 6 minutes and 33 seconds on how do you use a Punchout? How do you create a sourcing event? No one but buyers care about that. There's a whole bunch of training classes or training quick hits available to you, and you'll get the link to that. What are the next steps? So when you get this training material sent to you from the Coupa implementation team, take a look at it. And then once you go live, welcome to Coupa and welcome to the way that we're going to do things moving forward. Lastly, here's kind of the rollout schedule. I don't think anything has really changed on this, but it is subject to change based on weather and availability and all that jazz. If you're Legacy Pinnacle, you already have Coupa, and we're rolling you into Oracle on Monday. If you're Argosy Alton, if you're Hollywood and Banger, you will switch over to Coupa on Monday. And then we are going to roll out 2 properties a day for the rest of January. And I will tell you, when we started doing this 4 years ago, rolling 1 property out in a week seemed like a Herculean effort. And we've figured out what works, what doesn't work. And now we're doing 2 properties a day for basically a month, which is wild to me. My small brain has a hard time calculating how we're doing that, but I have nothing but faith in our e-procurement team, and I am positive that they will do a good job, and your initial experiences in Coupa will be positive. That all being said, does anyone have a question for me before we wrap this up? Okay, I'm not seeing any. All right, well, thank you. Have a great weekend. If you have questions, you can contact the Coupa implementation team. You can contact your property sourcing team. you can contact your regional director of procurement. Or if all of those fail, you can contact e-procurement or myself. Thank you and have a great weekend. Bye.